So transparency is a huge part of that. People want to know all the way up the supply chain what's going on. We had a big evolution almost a revolution in food where farm to table became like, that was the thing, right? Farm to table, everyone's doing it. We're seeing similar things happening in our industry where people want to know, hey, who's growing the cotton? Is there fair trade certifications in that? Are the sowers, do we have certifications and people that are watching to make sure that the sowers and factories around the world are being treated ethically and fair?
Welcome to Clothing Culture, a fashion industry podcast at the intersection of technology and innovation. I'm Emily Lane.
And I'm Bret Schnitker. We speak with experts and disruptors who are moving the industry forward and discuss solutions to real industry challenges.
Clothing Culture is produced by Stars Design Group, a global design and production house with more than 30 years of experience. Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Culture. We are once again at the world headquarters of Stars Design Group, and I'm joined by Bret Schnitker. Welcome, Bret, for this conversation.
Thank you, Em.
So the concept for this conversation actually came from a recent visit at a university, and we were meeting with some hopeful, bright students of fashion. And at the end of that conversation, we had, I think, a really wonderful question. It's, what's next in the industry? Everybody wants that crystal ball. Everybody wants to know what's on the horizon, but we are seeing some really exciting trends in the industry and thought that this would be a really cool conversation today. So let's kind of let's talk about what's happening in the world of textiles and clothing. What do you see on the horizon, Bret?
Definitely purple everywhere. No.
Okay, invest in purple.
I think you see, as we have this ongoing conversation about the evolution of the industry, and I think, from a STAR standpoint, from conversational standpoint, with academics and people in the industry, technology is a huge trend that's going on today. It continues to be a more and more integral part of apparel than ever before, not only in systems and production, but also in the integration into garments themselves. We say in one of our presentations, it's not enough that a garment looks good or feels good anymore. Everyone wants it to do something.
Even if they don't know what that something is.
You're right. And that's pretty prevalent. But that technology infusion is at all levels, even to the go-to-market strategy, the interface with a customer. Technology is interfacing our industry at a pace like never before.
That's true. And it is amazing that technology in the infusion of garments, some of the things that we're seeing with garments that can, monitor health and correct posture problems and all kinds of things out there.
Yeah, the fibers that they're using to accomplish that, the evolution of those fibers that are going on. There was a little-known substance years ago called graphene. It's one of the strongest substances in the world. It's basically kind of a single layer, cellular layer of kind of graphite, and they're using it in all types of applications all over the world, but it's found its way into the apparel business. And there's a lot of amazing properties that the graphene can apply. In addition to providing a lot of strength, it also has a conductive element. So, reading body information and things like that is not that far off in the too distant future.
Additional science and fiber and materials used to make garments. We're looking at things that are lab grown now.
Absolutely.
Mushroom leathers and all kinds of interesting things. It'll be curious to see at what point some of these materials are available at scale, because right now that's still pretty prestigious and tough to get your hands on.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other big topics about, we talk about these big trends, and two of the other ones are, and they're really kind of a little hand in hand. They mean subtly different things, but, reducing environmental impact on the earth and sustainable practices. Everybody, there was a statistic recently that talks that 80% of people want to buy sustainable. They talk about sustainable, they buy it. The reality is far different. We've mentioned in previous podcasts that about 13% of the material that we use every year is available in anything sustainable at all.
Right.
And so while there's a lot of exciting new innovations from this eco-friendly, sustainable kind of shift, they're just not at a scale that we're going to see wholesale changes in our industry yet.
Are there any of these materials that you would consider are a little bit more available? I've heard a lot about spider silk and other earth built materials.
I would say the majority of them, just by nature of the percentage available, if you combine them all at 13%, are still really nascent in terms of scalability. We're seeing a lot of traction in recycled fibers. I think the school's out on whether or not we're just pushing that issue down the road or really making an impact by doing recycled fibers. But that's gaining steam. It's probably the most tangible evolution for something that many consider to be more environmentally friendly. But others, other treatments, cellulosic fibers that can hopefully one day replace polyester, they've just got a ways to go before we see full-scale adoption.
Yeah. The sustainability initiative is, of course, of utmost importance and one that is on everybody's minds. Consumers want it. As an industry, we're just not quite there yet.
I think it's one of our biggest failures as an industry is accomplishing the needs that sustainability requires of us.
There was a staggering figure that we learned the other day, which was kind of looking at the arc of the number of garments being produced a year versus the number of garments being tossed in the landfill. And it was like happening at the exact same rate.
138 million metric tons end up in landfill from thrown away garments. And we're producing somewhere around 111 next couple of years to 138 million metric tons of new product that's coming in. And we're throwing away about the same in landfills every year.
So something that doesn't fill up landfills, of course, pixels,
sure.
Right? And one of the things that we've really seen on the rise is the metaverse coming into play.
Sure.
AI, AR, all of these things. There's a whole new realm out there for clothing. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you see this fitting into the future of fashion.
Sure. I think, again, it's nascent. And like with every nascent technology, it has its ups and downs. NFTs were a rage. Now everyone that has bought an NFT, I think the values dropped precipitously. And I think as consumers really understand this whole arena a little bit better, and as applications evolve where I've spoken in previous episodes where an avatar can be moved from your Zoom meeting to your Microsoft game and everywhere else, the avatar becomes an extension of you. Therefore, buying apparel as an extension of you becomes a lot more relevant. It's happening within games, it's happening in Decentraland and other spaces, and there's a modification or monetization to that. And it continues to grow. There's some surprising revenue that's being thrown off from this whole digital twin conversation. And what I mean is a digital twin is, there'll be you'll buy a designer brand top, let's say, in the real world, and then you will get an NFT so that you can own the digital twin for a virtual environment. And so, as all of those technologies continue to develop, I think that has every ability to grow exponentially. I think the brands that are well known will fare the best to begin with. And it's an exciting space. In the apparel industry, we're always going to far-flung places, trying to keep costing reasonable, working on, making sure deliveries are happening, and we deal with all the crazy shipping logistics that's happening globally today. To be able to shift and get a little piece of that Silicon Valley action where you're actually creating digital apparel is a very exciting concept. So I'm all in on that.
Yeah, we always talk about, being all over the world and
Yeah.
having offices everywhere. And we don't quite have one in the digital space yet. So
Yeah,
perhaps
right.
something we'll have to figure out, right?
That's right. Take a note.
Yeah. So thinking about that digital space, looking at AI and that influence on trend forecasting and even its ability to help personalize a shopping experience for a consumer. I think that that's another play that technology can have a strong influence.
AI is going to be everywhere, and it certainly finds its way into the apparel world for sure.
Yeah.
We have an integration in what we call a PLM, Project Lifestyle Management System, that helps us walk through a ton of different product. And AI is used in that to help move things much, much quicker. The computer learning, figuring out how to move meta tables and fill fields much, much quicker. And we're going to find that continuing to evolve through obviously social media and marketing and, and all of that type of thing.
We even have AI having influence in robotics and manufacturing.
Absolutely. It's an interesting time where many years human labor in third world markets were always less expensive than the investment in machinery and robotics. There is a rapid change where robotics are now, human labor cost has increased, and you find all over the world replacement of robotic assistance supporting human labor everywhere. And again, very nascently, there are fully robotic facilities, but they're still putting together pretty simple garments.
Sure.
So,
and there's still a lot of people involved.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking kind of now at the industry as a whole from a making standpoint. Let's talk about transparency, blockchain. We ourselves are involved in a big project to bring transparency all throughout the process for our clients. There is an increasing demand in this space. Would you shed a little light on this?
Well, this is also an extension of the sustainable conversation because people are one of the arms of this whole sustainable initiative that's going on. It's not only treating people more ethically, it's making sure that there is this constant ability to make sure that the sector is healthy. And so transparency is a huge part of that. People want to know all the way up the supply chain what's going on. We had a big evolution almost a revolution in food where farm to table became that was the thing, right? Farm to table, everyone's doing it. We're seeing similar things happening in our industry where people want to know, hey, who's growing the cotton? Is there fair trade certifications in that? Are the sowers, do we have certifications and people that are watching to make sure that the sowers and factories around the world are being treated ethically and fair? And so technology plays its part in that too. It hasn't been fully automated from a computer point of view. Again, there are human interactions with that. But the assistance to be able to understand the whole supply chain in a much faster time than before helps clients understand where they're at in that whole chain, understands where the source of some materials come. We had a conversation a few weeks ago in terms of some restrictions in cotton out of China.
Right.
And so the ability to trace
Traceability.
cotton, traceability even all the way up the chain requires technology.
Right. Yeah. I loved your farm to table analogy. I mean, we have a relationship with a leather producer who is literally farm to fashion, which was quite an outstanding accomplishment in that space.
Yeah. Sustainability is one of these frustrating topics that I continue to talk about because I just don't think we're far enough and there's not enough availability and it's very, very expensive and the time is ticking, time is running out. We've got to make massive changes. But you do see these pockets of hope around the world where a billion-dollar leather company decides to have an amazing sustainability initiative from Cal Forward, and those are positive signs.
Yeah.
And all these groups that we've spoken to, Spinnova out of Finland, and many others that are fledgling innovations in fiber and sustainability. It's exciting, and maybe the future will be made up of a ton of these small to medium operations that together make an impact on our 111 to 138 million metric tons a year. And so, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It just, I remain hopeful that stuff is happening.
Well, I see hope, certainly in shifting consumer behavior. We are seeing trends in the United States that are following that of Europe of, wanting higher quality, wanting a deeper relationship with who they do business with. And so I think that having intentionality about what you're buying and the quality that you're putting into your garments, things of that nature, we're seeing an evolution in that space, and the consumer is driving a lot of that.
Again, it's not to the level that I would like to see. You have the offset of that of someone like Shein out of China, where they pump out, I don't know, tens if not hundreds of thousands of styles every week.
Yeah,
it is just
it's
a
astounding.
deluge of product. And while maybe certain countries are embracing the need for sustainability and have the awareness that sustainability is empirical, has to happen, there's a shift in consumerism worldwide. And, we talk about China becoming the number one consumer in the world in a couple of years. And, fast fashion's alive and well in that country. For things to change, the global economic powers all have to get together and decide that this is truly something that's important. And that's outside of apparel. I mean, we probably represent 10 to 20% of the pollution that exists, water pollution and air and all that, that exists in the world. So there are a lot of issues, but we are the second, I think, most polluting industry after oil in general. So, I think we've got to understand that while there's these initiatives where buying less product, evolving to a better price point, doing better quality, that European model, if you will, there is still that whole thing about fast fashion and consumerism, and the other big trend that's going on right now is the Amazon effect, right?
Oh, right.
Everyone, my God, you order it, it's here tomorrow. Some places you order it, it's here the same day.
Right.
There was a comedian talking about, that we want to have it delivered before we think we want to buy it. That would be the ultimate goal. Like AI is learning our habits, and it just delivers the product before you. That's when we'll finally end this madness. But, that is a behemoth that shifts consumer behavior, that it's just so easy to get goods. You don't even have to get in your car. You don't have to drive and go shopping. You can just glance online, click the button, and it shows up. And so, there's a lot of yin yang going on,
Right.
in this entire industry, and I think that, from my perspective, we have to decide: are we filling the gap of the sins of our past by doing recycling, et cetera, and trying to keep up to speed on that? How are we fixing the input? Because there's a lot of dress on output. There's a lot of thought about how do we do this. The level of that shift is just not there yet.
So when we were talking, the future is so bright, we got to wear shades. I'm feeling that this is ending on a rather bleak note, Bret.
Well, there's some wonderful cellulosic thing where they're building new sunglasses. So those will be biodegradable sunglasses in the future. So if you do want to wear shades, there is some eco-friendly shades out there. Look, it's a complicated topic. We, as human beings, are using natural resource across the globe. And so, how do we balance the use? And I think it was something like 1970 we passed the point of balance.
Okay.
So many years ago, we crossed the Rubicon.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be fixed anytime soon, for sure.
Right. Well, is there one other, final spot of hope or brightness, perhaps, that you see on the horizon of our industry that maybe we could wrap this up and tie it on a positive note today?
No.
No. Well, technology's ever evolving,
Yes.
right? And
I
we've seen
think,
wonderful
we
things
always
happen.
like to joke that adversity breeds creativity and adversity brings technology. We will reach a point where there's enough groundswell and there will be enough innovation to tip that scale, I think.
And I have a feeling you're
hope.
going to be at the front edge of that. You are one of those early adopter types. So I can't wait to have this conversation maybe a year from now, and maybe things are a little brighter.
Yes, because if it's 10 or 15 years from now, we'll be in like hazmat suits having this conversation.
Those will
So
be made out of fully recycled materials.
It
though.
will. It will for sure.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate your insights, even if they were a tad on the dark side. Don't forget to subscribe and stay apprised of upcoming episodes of Clothing Culture.